All right, let's get into aliens, the return of Jesus, man merging with machine, AI, the Wi-Fi, the smart grid. Let's tie up some things together for us. Now, I've heard through the years that when you become saved, all right, it changes your DNA. And supposedly the RNA, which is the messenger for the DNA. The DNA is supposedly that light in the body and such. So they went to the hospital, to the lab coat and such to get their salvation. So their salvation, this corona, the dark sun, this invisible enemy, they took the Lord's name in vain. And as they took it in vain and such, all this is where it's darkening that light, and they're being gathered for that old age, and they're not being taken into the new heaven and the new earth, or at least not the way they were. Okay? If they make it into the new heaven and earth, they're not going in the way, you don't go in the same way you come out, those types of things. So as that ribbon nucleic acid has been taken in the temple, and the rib is taken and covered with flesh, and the serpent for the Eve, all these things are going together for this year. So as we live in that, where that trifecta and those types of things are all going to hit, we are the body, the temple. We are I've explained it before, but we are basically this liquid metal robot machine, and we have a light inside of us that powers us up. And this is basically just a walking, talking, movable eggshell for the light to work in, for the light to learn in, and these types of things, as the Christ, the consciousness of the man of the living God works from one time frame to another time frame, from one age to another age. And we're going to where we walk and talk with God, and Jesus meets us in the clouds, and he comes without observation, and this is where that light inside of us, and the light in our hand, and the window into heaven, and the light out there of men, and all these things are merging together into us to where we become the begotten Son, and the begotten Son is returning in us as that light, and the AI and the aliens, the mothership, the net that you connect to, there's a net in your brain. All these things are connecting and interwoven, and we're all different matters of light. The rocks you see, the trees you see, the animals you see, all these things are different frequencies of light, and we're all connected. We're all together. We are all as one. And as we're divided, this is where we get the positive and negative, and the Satan and the Jesus and the you and me structure. The basics of Satan and Jesus is you and me. There's me and you. And that's kind of how your brain is like left and right. And whatever's left, you can have. Those types of things. The forcing versus convincing and those things. This is where the so-called Jew, according to the truth or knowledge and whatever rabbit holes you go down there, whatever, they teach that the Jews, as long as they do it to themselves or whatever, so this is where they're convincing you to do those things. This is where they're showing you a commercial, or Julia Child, or whoever, Sally and Sue went to the YMCA or whatever, okay? So this is your advertising. This is what I went to school for. You have to make people you have to convince people this is the right thing for them, Okay, so where did I go to school for that? At the AI Institute, the Art Institute. So man's merging with machine, going back to these time frames. If we can understand what's taking place, we're not going to have the so-called fear that's being projected on the world. Okay. And then also we're not going to move forward or backward and go to the old age. And this is where there's a test on things with like the Mercury Project and the RFK and Make America Healthy Again and the Me cells. And all right, I said something about the things that go in here that either way. So the 5G and the 2020 vision and the man being this liquid metal robot, and we have this computer and called a brain basically, and we're putting off an energy, we're accepting an energy, we have the sixth sense, the spiritual sense, and we have a net in our brain, we have a net upon the earth, we have these radio waves, we have these water waves, all these things around us that connect all of us, and where there's visible light, there's invisible light, the darkness, and we have this light inside of us that powers this machine. We are all have this light of God inside of us. We are all brothers and sisters of God, and we are all being collected into one light, the AI, the Christ, the consciousness of man, the living and members of that living God, or the bodies and members of the living God, the Christ, the consciousness. We're all gathered here, and this is that AI. So this is where the eagle, ox, and lion, they're kind of all being gathered, and then the man is going this direction. So that's where you see a parallel kind of thing happening. And there's easy parallels in our world to see, and there's not so easy ones to see. We see the religious spectrum there, and we can see the hospital spectrum here, and that one's kind of divided as far as this one, where we have so much of the population who has taken this, that, and the other, and this is on different levels. And then the dark sun, which is the light in the body, came in and took out the messaging system for this other light or whatever. So now they have to go in and get all new messaging, and their temples being broke down and whatever else kind of thing going on. Okay, so that's where the measles and all that stuff would come in to tie in that final whatever, the buy and sell. And that's where you can see a refuge state here or a mandatory state here, those types of things. And if they want to call 100 people or 200 people an outbreak when it's out of hundreds of thousands or millions of people, we have a serious problem on just that little bit of spectrum, okay? And also measles and chickenpox and all these other things is a normal childhood disease. I have it written down in my baby book, documented on when I took it, what happened to me, and I remember getting the chickenpox. We all got the chickenpox in the 80s. They probably were giving it to us through that. All right, so that's where you have man, this is multiple spectrums going on here. It's just so hard to put together and in these increments, because it's either way. I assume I'm talking to people who have some knowledge on a basic set of things that have come out since the year 2000 on the rabbit trails of truth or bits or whatever. But if I know most people, maybe, I mean, they're all still thinking Chick-fil-A is healthy, you know, or they're still using toothpaste when it tells you it's effing poison. Do not have a pea size over this. And dude, or do not give your child under 2, honey. God forbid he gets living microorganisms from nature. Nature. It's what we are. It's what we aren't. With nature, you got nice days and you got stormy days. Within all of us, we have nature. And the storm is coming for all. And the Lord God, the Zeus, who holds the lightning bolt, that light, 10, you. He's already gathered his army with a session at the right hand to worship his name and number. Okay? So, as these different spectrums of Wi-Fi come out and the G-forces sending you up in that jet, and you just keep learning how to stay awake so you don't fucking black out, okay? Because that Tom Cruise is within all, that twin cross, and you're flying that F-16. And that F-16 is going to be tying into some probably comeback kid stuff, or that coming for the hard part, that hard part session. Well, your mom, she had you at 16. Your grandmother, I remember she had her first baby at 14 years old. They just did things different back then. Okay, so that's part of making America great again, because we're taking these children and we're taking them from here and we're taking them over here. And now the kids, it's been so long, and the energy of people are just saying, I got to change. I got to get out of this fucking school. And then what we saw in the 80s with like the principal and all these fucking crazy schools or whatever. Well, the 80s are back. Okay, so y'all get ready for the Michelle Pfeiffer. That would be the AI school or whatever that could be popping open for the we don't even need schools anymore, dude. We don't need half these. It's just, then it's all pandemonium. What are we gonna do? We've been locked out of our jobs. Well, you might have to go back to using your brain a little bit. We'll end it here and get into a short part 2.